All right. Well, shalom and peace to each and every one of you. I hope that you guys are uh, watching magnificent and marvelous changes go on in your life, inside of you, and your thought processes, and all of the different ways that you function. Certainly, the reality of change is a very important part of what's going on. The movement that's going on in the earth right now. We are in the middle. If you haven't been told, we are in the middle of a evolution, if you would, an evolving of humanity from one status or dimensional frequency to a new dimensional frequency, and it's quite a journey for me. I feel really blessed. There's really a lot of things that the universe source has been in higher self, however you want to call it. There's a lot of things I'm just going to try to touch on. There are pieces that I've learned, things that I've seen. Maybe they'll help some of you guys. Uh, it's so funny on many levels that the subtle truths about this stuff are really so overwhelming, and yet some of them are so simple. It's not really even all that funny. And so we live in this time, and everybody's talking about all of these things, and I really personally believe that most things are being sold more than they're being given, and I think that they are for an agenda, not the agenda of the universe, if you would. Uh, and so there are practical ways that we can learn how to function and learn how to navigate. As you saw on Saturday, we were given a beautiful picture that Source views all of this, and I kind of thought about that, and I thought, wow, how wonderful that all our life we've been told that we had to fight to keep from going to hell, and then to find out at this point in reality that the truth of the matter is we should have been playing a game all along anyways, and I'm starting to understand how many of these shifts, why they had to be hidden and why they're so profound for each and every one of us. And I've shared that there are lots of responsibilities, and the difference between maybe what has been and what is isn't the final outcome of who the person should have been. Maybe it's the final outcome of how that person becomes that. And if that resonates with you, then I totally can understand why. We hear every now and then, we hear words and people talk about coherence, and yet we have no knowledge, conscious whatever, of what coherence even is. Most people I ask, even the ones that are trying to use spiritual words and spiritual cliches, I think is really more of a lot what they are. And it seems like that there's just a lot of shortage of truth that really is being, uh, you hear someone and they use a term, and so you use that term, and you perceive it to make you more spiritual. And in reality, it's becoming really clear that, and so this may be one of the greatest bombshells I'll ever give to you. The reality is that really we don't need to do anything. Uh, Except there's the great conundrum, the great paradox that unfolds itself. We don't need to do anything except find what reality is. Uh, just so that you have existed for millions of years as a soul being in reality. Every now and then you take a little hike, you take a little trip, and you come into uh, an avatar state, an avatar actor, to learn some lesson or some little test or something that you left behind. And I thought, it's really crazy the peace that I have and what the things that sources or my higher self, or let me just say it like this, because this is a little piece that I'd like to touch on as well. Uh, for those of you who may not understand this, what is very quickly becoming quite clear is that if we didn't have enough deceptions that have been given to us, we have a massive deception, and that deception has to do with separation and reality. And so the separation concept was engrafted into us through Christianity. And you say, well, how did that happen? And actually, it was your parents, but all of the teachings that modern society, to a large extent, those morphed out of Christianity. Whether they're the people that taught them to you were anti-Christian or not is really irrelevant, because that's where the principles came from. But we have this concept because we were brainwashed with this concept that somehow we are separated from God. And if you pose that in the right preface and you share that and teach that with people for thousands of years, it's very easy to understand how that could be. You know, I've met people that are very good people, and they do what they think is important, you know, because they heard the words in the Bible about prayer, and yet they have no wisdom or understanding about what or how to make that function in the first place. And so one of the first little things I'd like to give you is that if your mind hasn't brought you to the place, it's okay. It doesn't matter where you're at. All I'm doing is sowing truth, and those that will hear it, and it will resonate with them. But the reality of the matter is dear one, is that this fundamental concept that really massively affects all humans is this concept of separation. And you believe that you are separated from God. And that's what you were told. That was intentionally programmed into you, if I could say it in that manner. And so you were programmed in that you were separated from God. You were all alone. You were over here, and if you made the transgressions, then you would suffer and you would pay the price. And I hate to say this, though, I then came into a new belief system, and all of a sudden I heard the same message, but they called it reincarnation. And folks, both of them are the exact same lie. I don't say that it's a lie that people reincarnate. That's not what I'm talking about. I know for a fact people are reincarnating, and I know for a fact people are going to continue to reincarnate because they're going to make a choice to function in a low frequency, and there isn't any power that they have that can get them out of that cycle at this point. It's a pretty well-known fact that if you're still in the reincarnation cycle, now I want to preface this. There are people here, maybe you guys aren't aware of it, but there are people here walking, they look just like me every day, that are ascended masters, if you want to call them that, or they are seed workers, light beings. All of those things exist and are in our environment now. And so when I say that, it doesn't cover everybody. It covers all of those people who aren't that. If you're not a light worker, if you didn't make a conscious choice after having ascended to come back at the good pleasure of Monad, then you are still in the reincarnation cycle. And maybe some of you don't even understand what I just said. Because of the timing that we're at, there are people, although they're not people, I guess they're really consciousness, but conscious individuals in the other side, in the ethereal, and Source seems to put people in positions and then desires for them through the act of love. Remember, God is love, and in Him is no darkness at all. And if you can allow yourself to believe that a little bit, then it becomes very simple. If you were given an opportunity to come back in and do something mighty to help humans, because you are loved, even if you told yourself, and y'all have heard me say this 100 times, and I understand that already there's another paradox, another paradigm shift that's going on. And in reality, a lot more often than people have any clue of. And yet most people are so separated from consciousness that they can't see a light worker. You can't experience that. And even if they sit in the same room with them. And so, what is transitioning as we go forward is we're told that we are to remember, and I've shared with you, it's funny that I don't hear people asking questions, and you probably will not, unless somebody chooses to be kind enough to share with you. You're probably not going to find those questions. And I know that there's a lot of spirit people that say they don't need anybody. They got all the truth by themselves. Well, if that's the case, then Yeshua was a liar, and every other master that's ever existed on this earth was a liar also. And I'm quite sure that somebody who doesn't function in the realm, even if they have psychic powers, don't trump the ascended masters. And certainly I would never believe you that Yeshua was trumped by any human's knowledge or teaching that existed. And Yeshua constantly told us that we need help. You see how the conundrum starts. People get on television, and if they can lie to you and get clicks, they do it. And you buy it because they got clicks. So they must be smarter than somebody who has less clicks. And I hate to tell you this, but the source doesn't believe that. So the reality for us is we've kind of come through a mill where everybody was fearful about, it was yoo-hoo that there's no heaven, and yoo-hoo that there's no hell, and that's all wonderful and good, and I fully agree with it. I was very pleased to find that out. And then we moved from there and then into the big scare and the big fear. Archons are still working. They're never going to quit working. And into the concept that then we needed somehow to have reincarnation to improve ourselves, and it is another fear factor. It is another way to keep people in fear. If you find out that you are going to have to come back in, and maybe you'll live again and you will figure it out this time, your mind does the same thing. It brings on the same psychological effects that Christianity does. If I just don't do the thing, then somehow I'll be accepted. And so as long as it kind of lives inside of that paradigm picture, folks, it's all the same. It doesn't matter whether it's somebody teaching you and calling themselves a spiritualist or a psychic or a medium. I hear so much stuff that's wrong, it's not even funny. And what's really sad to me is I watch people that dance around because they have no knowledge of the archons, and they say all kinds of really stupid spiritual things that are not in any way true, and yet people buy that crap hook, line, and sinker. I hear it constantly. And so what if we could, for a proverbial minute, what if we could take into our minds and understand the concepts that though we have been programmed subconsciously that we are separated from the God, whatever that is to you, and inside of you, many of you have separation anxieties already. You live in a state of constant fear. You put on the show, you say the spiritual cliches, but inside you're nothing but a scared little kid. And it's good. It would be better though that you would be honest and allow yourself to be exposed, because that is a condition that is growable out of that. Really, to be honest with you, anything other than that, you're just going to spin off into another lie. And so we have this concept that we're separated from God, and somehow we need someone to come and do for us. Well, I want to propose to you, and if it overwhelms you, wonderful. If it doesn't, wonderful. So I'm a winner no matter what. I'm doing what I was created to do, and I know that, so I don't really care about the rest. But the truth of the matter is, friends, is that while we were told that we were separated and need something external to bring salvation to our life, I have been a good steward and shown y'all lots of documentation pre-Christian that tells you that all of that crap is a lie. Okay, and yet it doesn't seem like a lot of people They may have heard the words, but it's not experiential. That is to say, it doesn't live in you as gnosis. And if you don't understand what logos, the word, and gnosis, knowledge, and how they go together and how they make up our reality, well then, certainly that would be a really good thing for you to maybe invest some time in yourself for. But the truth of the matter is that we were brought up in that. But what if that isn't true? And so I want you to stop and ponder something. What if it is not true that we are separate individual people? And I wonder if your mind could, for a very few kind, loving minutes to yourself, I wonder if you could ponder for a minute about how it would be if you could come to an understanding experientially inside of you that you have never been separated from consciousness, not once. It's pretty drastically different. The paradox of those two is just friggin' mind-boggling, okay? And so stop and think what that might mean. So let me paint a picture for you, I hope to, over the next 10 or 15 minutes, and then I hope that it will be love and kindness and light and blessing to you, because that's what all of it is. That certainly is the intent, and that's what brings coherence. And certainly, I guess at some point I need to speak for a while on what coherence is in the spirit realm and how we access it, and because without it you can't do anything. You can't function in the realm. You're not in alignment with source and never will be. And so it's like really, really, really critical that you find coherence with source. And so this concept, what if we haven't been, and it's just the program running in the background constantly that puts you back? I know a lot of the people that I know, I listen to them, and they're all trying, but I noticed that it's very difficult for a human to get out of the cycle of running back to what they've known. And so that doesn't make us bad or anything else. It just simply means that sometimes it's not so easy to understand or to see truth even. And so as we go on this piece of this journey of what does it mean that I've never been separated from source? Well, I think if you will spend the time to think just a little bit, you will be able to then begin real quickly to see that it really has the ability to change everything very, very, very quickly. If I have never been separated from source, and I have always been source, and I've been living and running under a different program, but underneath all of that, I have never not been. And I love that statement because it's like all of these cliche Christian statements that we've all used. If you were in the Christian world with me, you certainly probably were. But we've used all of these cliche statements, and I just marvel often how the universe brings deep understanding in something that we might want to throw away in the Bible. Actually has really, really, really profound spiritual truth to it. And so Yeshua tells us that these things that I do and greater will you do because I go to the Father. And many people were told that what that means is Yeshua came down here and he was some powerful being from some other place, and he came here and he told us that I'm going to show you what you can do, and then I'm going to leave and I'm going to go back to the one that existed before everything. And of course we still have this other little paradoxical problem about the fact that you are an ancient spirit. I listen to spirit teachers And I had a conversation, and since then, Source, as often as the case, brings little pieces of wisdom and understanding. That's what consciousness does. And, that has to do with many of these concepts about us, that we, as a soul, are ancient. And you hear a lot of people that are selling the old soul thing, and it's a valid question to ask questions. That's not the problem. The problem is some of the answers that people are then taking as truth. And as far as I can tell you, according to what the literature tells us, when the aeons were released by Monad and Barbello from the unknowable pulsating energy of the universe, just so you know, the Big Bang was nothing but a thought that Source had. But we're told right in the beginning, Yeshua himself is actually giving this teaching, and he says that first there were these aeons, and then all of these aeons were giving the ability to create worlds, people, servants, kings, masters, lords. He goes through the whole list. And folks, this isn't just one. There are many of these aeons. And so in our closed mind, the massive greatness of the place that we live is the extent that our minds are capable of grasping, and yet there are very potentially tens, at least tens, into hundreds of aeons that created whole societies that exist now. And that's amazing and beautiful, but the point I really wanted to get to is that Yeshua tells us that the consciousness that we are preceded them. And that's the part that I'm really trying to get to. So when you hear someone use the cliche about being an old soul, it is true, but all souls are old. We were all created before even the eons were. And that's what sets up a picture when you begin to recognize that. For me, it's brought an ever increasing revelation, even of wisdom and things that are just coming out of nowhere. And here's the thing, one of the pieces I want to share with you tonight. I didn't have to do anything to find it. So we've got a thing that's going on. If I ask you to be yourself, it is revelatory. That is to say, you must have the revelation. But if I ask you tonight to simply be yourself, what would you be? Would you be the human that you've always been? Would you actually begin to recognize that the person that you've set up as being you is not now nor ever has been you? It's simply a concoction that was created in your mind. And if you created it in your mind, you have the power to destroy it from your mind. And so, but you must do that. You must do that. And so, if we are from everlasting to everlasting, here's a piece I would like to sow. Guys, every word that is written in the Bible about Yeshua isn't just about him. You were told by Christianity that he was God, but he came and told you that you were God. Do you see? That also is another paradigm deception that causes you to believe that you are separate and different from. Now, if you have bad behaviors, you have bad behaviors because you allow yourself to be mindless. So that's the only thing that can stop you from being mindless is being mindful. And if you choose not to be mindful, you are mindless, no matter what you think about yourself. And so as we begin to see this story, What if you could begin to put inside yourself, and if you do, I'll tell you, it'll totally blow you away, the shifts that will come along after this. And as Yeshua said, some things follow some people and other things are much bigger, and it takes a long time for them to trail into people's minds. There'll be somebody that'll hear me, but there'll be people months, years down the road that will hear me for things I've said tonight. So if I am an old soul and if I am ancient, maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 million years old, how would that change your perception of what you are? It's very clear your body's not 400 million or 400 billion, whatever their number is. Your body is not that old. At 63, I feel like I've lived a long time, but that's not the way it is with us in the conscious realm. And so then you can ask yourself this question, well, if I've never been separated from what? That would be a very valid, thoughtful question for someone to ask. Well, if we were taught that we were separated, we were taught that God, and now we find that God, the one that created us, was the demiurge. It wasn't source. Your body is a concoction of the demiurge controlled by the archon. That's how it is now. That's how it's always going to be. It is totally up to you to step outside of your humanity and step into your reality. And there are people that are finding the path and finding out that this isn't as much as we thought it was, but yet it's so much more. And so if we haven't been separated from source and we've always been source and we have forgotten source, and now because of what's going on in the cosmic realm is a time for us to begin to remember source, it actually really plays out when you look at it. It's actually, this is a time for you to remember you. And so you have a little window here. Some say that this will continue on for 100 years, but the next 3, 4, 5, 10 years are going to be when all of the powerful, or the major powerful shift is coming. I hear numbers like in 5 years from now, our economic system and everything that has to do with reality is going to be so different, you won't even remember what it is living now. I don't know if that'll happen. I certainly love the sound of that all of those beings who are going to truly turn crystalline, as Dolores Cannon and now science is saying, that our cells are actually filled with quartz crystals, just like the energy producing crystal they use in electronics. There's a reason that they use quartz crystals in every cell phone that exists, and that also exists inside of you. You are a supernatural piece of everything. So we see things now like me and Marianne the other night, we watched, there's a guy that has created a machine, and he literally puts one probe on one piece and he puts another probe on another piece, and there are actually countless recordings of the vocalizations that plants are making and emitting to themselves. They're playing music constantly. And it's real music. It's not what we call music. That is not what we call music, is not music. That is man-made music, and that's all it is, and that's all it will ever be. Okay? True music is frequency. It is emanation from vibration. It's frequency. Has nothing to do with anything else. We have morphed that because humans have intelligence, and we have learned to make things that produce loud frequencies, make them louder, and we somehow thought that was better. And in fact, it's not at all. It's totally inferior to the music that plays inside of you. And so as you begin to grab a hold of these concepts, that we are frequency and we are energy, and there's certainly many people sharing that truth, and they are certainly right. But here's the piece that I really am kind of in a long ways trying to get to. I really hope that you will begin to understand that you are not one iota, and I mean not to the smallest molecule, which they can put under a microscope and find out that it's just hollow anyways. You are not one iota different than every person that's around you. And I've watched people hear those words and they just continue on, just exactly, no change at all. No consciousness about the people around them, no consciousness that if you are doing contrary to other people, you're doing contrary to yourself, because you're all the exact same, which is why what Yeshua was really trying to get across to us when he said you must love your neighbor as yourself. What he really was saying to you in hidden concept is that if you don't love your neighbor, you're not loving yourself, because you and your neighbor are the exact same consciousness. And for those that get it, that are mindful, it will revolutionize your life. It doesn't mean that you agree, like humans' bad behaviors. It doesn't mean that you can change humans' bad behaviors. That is certainly something only they can do. But it does give us the ability to have an insight that we are something that always has been. We are something that always will be. With that comes the ability, because we are the monad, we are the divine spark, we are supernatural at the max love, true love, the love Paul talked about, the love Yeshua talked about. And it's so funny because, you know, we used to sing a song, a guy that was very gifted and enlightened and cursed because he talked bad about Jesus Christ, John Lennon, who was infinitely more awake than 99% of the people that are walking on this earth right now, with a silly little song that states simply that all we need is love. You know why John wrote that song? Because that's all there is. You are either in love or you are dying because you're carnal. And that opens all the doors for the whole reincarnation thing. And you have the power to stop that if you choose to. But when we begin to stop trying to be something and just start being something, those two things are as diabolically opposed to each other as anything that there is. We don't have to try to be anything. All you have to do is accept the responsibility that you haven't been what you are. That's a revelation. You won't feel that way if you don't get the revelation. You'll hear the words and you may say the words. I hear lots of people saying words that I've said, and yet those words mean nothing to them. Not in the manner in which I said them. And so as we begin to take this power that is being unleashed, see, I came into Christianity with the picture that I was going to watch the dead raised and the sick people be healed. And I'm so excited with all of the power healing, sound healing. There's just all kinds of healings that are popping up all over the earth. And I don't think that maybe we quite always really understand that we are that potent. We do have that much energy in us to be able to truly change the earth. And if you listen to all of these really well-meaning spiritualists that tell you you don't need anything, good luck with making it there. Most of them will not. They will reincarnate again. That is a proof of mindlessness. When you recognize that you do possess inside of you, and yet if you knew how to access it, you would have already done it. That's why there's so many teachings on manifestation. It isn't because it's not available, it's because nobody knows how to get there. And so they keep telling you stories, and for them it is a manifestation because they set out to make money and buy houses and have the things that they wanted, and they accomplished that through you. And so it's okay if that happens, if the deal is fair and square and honest and true. Not necessarily when somebody is trying to deceive people to get money from them. That's a whole nother story. So, I set out tonight. I set intention before I came. Source opened my crown chakra. It was amazing, the electricity that went through me. And that was solely for the purpose of setting an intention to let you know tonight that you don't have to try to be you. Just be you. But you must, of your own free will, make a conscious choice to define that, because how you define that determines what that means. So for many people, they're saying, well, I don't understand this thing. I am who I am, and I've always been. Well, but you're always is 70 years out of 400 billion. You haven't always been this that you think you are. To you, as when you're functioning in the world and you're living in the human realm, it seems 80 years seems like forever. And in reality, it's not even a glitch on a time frame for the time that things have exist or the times that things are going to exist. And so when you come to that concept that I'm not separated from source, I am source. I am God, just exactly like Yeshua said we were. Now, I may not be supreme source, but my son is not me, but he's me. It's the exact same principle. Of course, I shared this in Christianity in Austin, and most people didn't get it then either. So I'm not really having a massive high expectations that it's going to be the thing that changes somebody's life. But it is a reality nonetheless, dear friends. First off, you must find out what it even means to be you. And that sometimes can be a lifelong journey, and I hope for anybody who comes along and hears this, it's not too hard to do, but you do have to be honest. You can't be a liar and find the truth, because the truth will slap you in the face, and all you will do is concoct a different story. That's how it works. And so, as we go through the rest of our internment here, I hope that you maybe can begin to accept that fact. And if you do, it will begin to change you, not just with one. I mean, you want to know how to get rid of racism, higher consciousness. You want to know how to get rid of sex issues, higher consciousness. You want to know how to find people that can actually think, mindfulness, higher consciousness. And outside of higher consciousness, that'll never happen. And so, but the beauty that I'm seeing and I'm trying to get across is that it isn't something that we have to jump through a bunch of hoops about. Is meditation for us? Of course it is. You can't hear the higher you with the noise. That's why so many people, and they're fully correct, that talk about all of these people that are totally enamored. Now, I use my phone all the time. So I'm not placing a judgment on anyone, but I also recognize how many people that I watch that are so inundated, they totally block out everybody so they can live in their false reality of their phone. If it causes you to do that, friend, you got a problem. Reality means being here and present now, not when you get done with what you're doing. And that's a hard message, but it is the truth. And it is the message that we need to move out of. We have so much noise. We have so much clutter. AI, I have several words that have come from other people that I will show to you. And that is the purpose that AI was given to us by beings outside of our world was to cause more dissonance, because enlightenment is coming, religion's power is falling away, and AI is the replacement for Christianity and religion. It's what you put your belief in. And in this situation, it's going to get so good so fast that without spiritual intuition inside of you, 2 years from now, knowing what is real and what isn't real is going to be almost impossible. So here's a beauty of how the universe plays the game for those who are going to, in actuality, return to where they came from. If you are not functioning in frequency, not a frequency, but the base frequency of the universe. It's a pulsing, it's what created everything that is. It is a base frequency. That's why I talk so much about the ohm. The ohm creates part of the base frequency that you must vibrate at. And so as that goes on, then we're going to have all kinds of things that which are going on right now. The problem is AI is going to get so good so fast that you can, and many of you know, we have several conversations around here relatively often about AI, and well, so many people know. But here's the question: what does that mean to spirit beings who are just now starting to remember that they are something? What is that going to mean for them? And it's a very important question if you have a desire to be successful and to see the world for what it is. Then the connection that we have, the coherence, the alignment with source is going to be the only thing. We call things like that intuition. We call part of coherence is when we vibrate at the same level that source vibrates. And so when I say these words, I realize, you know, how much people really don't care about what the truth is. They just want somebody to tell them how they can lie to themselves so they can feel better. And give me a few signs and wonders and let me see some colors like I did some dope, and I'll be okay. And it really, it goes on everywhere. I hear it every day. When in reality, the truth of the matter is what Yeshua was trying to goad us to do was to focus, because please, dear one, understand this. You are already creating your reality. In fact, I'd like to throw this little piece in, and I won't charge you extra for it. The truth of the matter is, everybody out there in the spirit world is talking about presence. Okay? That you must be present in the moment. Alan Watts, one of my favorite instructors, I love him to death. He has a fundamental, huge amount of truth. But the truth of the matter is that also not used properly ends up being a trap. Because being in the present, you don't hear this. Being in the present moment means that you are creating the present moment. Not today, tomorrow. See, when you grab a hold of this little bitty piece, that there is a lag time that goes on in manifestation. People who understand manifestation don't question that. They know that it's true. Okay? So there is a lag time. And so in reality, I could say, and I will, that you are living in the consciousness that you created yesterday. So living in the present, if you want to know the real spiritual truth, living in the present is actually living in the past. Because you created this day and everything that you experienced in it, you created that back there, not here. You didn't cut. So for some of you who are trying to figure out this whole we're creator things, I'm about to give you a nice picture if you will accept it. See, I have to be today what I want to manifest in front of me. And I've actually heard spiritual teachers that are telling people that you should never think about anything that has to do with the future. Well, if that's the case, then there would have never been prophecy, because every prophet would have thrown the words in the trash can that source gave them. Okay? That knowledge came from the divine, if they were a true prophet. So he wasn't telling them, he was telling them what man was going to create. And so what does that mean for us? Well, if you're here today and in your mind you're not quite clear about creation, then you may think that you're creating all of this today, but it's not so. You created this back there. So why is that important to us? It's important to us because if we know that we're not separated and we know that we're always creating, but most people today don't have any understanding about what motivates or what brings about what the clichéic term that's used, which is manifestation. Actually, all it is the unfolding of true reality. Okay? So, I'm trying to help somebody. I don't know who it is, but somebody wants the truth and they're having a problem finding it. I am sitting here. I created this whole scenario. I created these words days ago. I set my focus and my intention on the truth, and those things were done back there, not here. This is just the outworking of the creation process, but the creation process goes on before. And so here's the problem that people have. They keep thinking today that they're creating when yesterday was when they created, and they have no remembrance of what they did yesterday, so they're clueless to why the things are today. Can you see that? That you are right this minute. Every thought that has gone through your head since I started speaking is part of your creation process. You are already creating your future, and you won't live it today. You will live it somewhere else, a day down the road, 2 days down the road. I don't know what the official lag time, I don't think there is one, but I don't know what it would be for how long, because it really seems to depend on you and your focus. If you don't focus well, things that you wanted, the universe writes them off and never thinks about them again. See, because this whole coherence thing that goes on inside of you is very potent, and it is the only piece that will keep you from manifesting. You will continue to live the horrible life that you see in front of your eyes every day. You'll still do with all the things. And so, as I said, it gets very deep, but suffice just simply to say, think about today, what you would like tomorrow and next week to be today, and live according to that. And that's what you will see. And that never stops. It always continues. So every day you are creating situations, whether good or bad, whether you stay in the little loop of the lost, or whether you find yourself with your eyes wide open to truths that are so amazing that most human minds can't even deal with what I've said tonight. And this is minuscule compared to what I would like to share with people. But I would have you to know that you are already divine, and you are already creating. So here's a piece for you. In the Kabbalion, we learned right off that as above, so below. Think about that, and maybe a perspective that you haven't had about that statement. Because Yeshua made one that's identical, it was just different words. So as above, so below, we all, or most people I've talked to anyways, view that as is in heaven. And where did we find that concept? In the Bible. As in heaven, so on earth. That's a metaphoric picture of as above, so below. But that's not what the concept is. That never was the concept. The concept is this, dear friend. Whatever is going on in your mind is what's happening in your life. It is mysticism 101 to the extreme. As above, so below. So how can that affect us positively? Because if we would choose to take charge and recognize that today I am creating the life that I'm going to live in front of me, and that wherever my head is, then it gives you the ability to control your head, thoughts, intentions, and create a reality that might be more favorable to you. Maybe there's pieces in your life you're unhappy with. And if you follow one guru, you'll stay all the time, you'll constantly be trying to make yourself feel something. And in reality, we should be feeling more than we're thinking by far. But the question is if I say I am something enough times, does that make it so in the ethereal realm? That is to say, in the conscious realm, since your frequency in the source reads your frequency. He doesn't listen to your words. He reads your frequency. Is this person's frequency lining up in coherence with what the Father is? It doesn't matter what you want. It all works exactly the same. And so many people are out of coherence with Source, and then they try to do all the spiritual things, and it never works out for them. Rather than us chasing supernatural nonsense that we never needed to chase in the first place. Source said a word to me the other day. He said, "When are you going to stop chasing that?" And it was really, really, really powerful for me. When he speaks to me, it never is fun, and it's always amazing. And so I've been pondering for quite a few days the picture of that. And so that brought me to this place. Many people are chasing being something so they can tell people how something they are. And that's really spiritual pride. It's not losing ego. It's not becoming spiritual. You're just very prideful. Okay? On the other side, if you know that you are Source, do you really need to tell anyone? Would that not play out? Should you not be able to know that I'm Source and just come to peace with that? Happy, happy, joy, joy. I love who I am. When I say those words, that's because I know now who I am. And I am happy with me. I love me. I am light. I am Source. I understand one piece, not all, but one piece. And that one piece is that I am not now, nor have I ever been separated from the creation that I am and the creation that you are. But I'm also not separated from the trees that are singing the same song to Source that I am in my heart. And it's no different than the flowers that get planted along the sidewalk that are singing as I walk by, and their frequency and my frequency are intermeshing. And if you dig on that, and if it hits you, if you're bored, then you've already answered your own question. I don't need to be concerned about it. But for those of you who's something, as a guy blessed me with today, he said, I always hear your voice when I'm doing things that are wrong. And I thought, that's the greatest compliment any human has ever given me, that things I said 10 years ago still have that much reverberation in the cosmos. Why? Because I didn't know it then, but I know now that I am consciousness, and so are you. And so I hope that you will allow yourself to be what you are, and that you will take up the fight to see who you're not, because it is your fight and only you can do it. But if you do, dear friends, you will find what Yeshua said we should be looking for, which is peace that passes all understanding. It won't make any sense. Well, all my world feels like it's falling apart, and yet it's not that I don't care, because I very much care. It's just that's not what's important. What's important is that I guard my sacred frequency, and that I protect myself from people who are low frequency, and that I love them even if they don't love me. And so peace to each and every one of you. Source is showing his kindness all over this earth. I hope that you're experiencing it, and if you haven't, I hope you will, and if you are, then I hope you never stop again. And so We will see you guys on Saturday. I hope that you will take some of this. Maybe you'll walk through a situation in a day and you'll remember that you are not separated, nor have you ever been. Because that's really a massive revelation. People nod their head and act spiritual and don't know crap about what was just said, and it happens all the time. But the reality is once it begins to live in you, friends, nobody will ever be able to take it away from you. And so I will tell you, from my knowledge, that we are light and we are love. And if that's not how you're living, then maybe you need to look inside your head. Peace to each and every one of you. Love. May you know the blessings that make you rich. And it ain't got nothing to do with money. And they add no sorrow to your life. Namaste.